We have incompetent leadership. We have incompetent people. This morning I watched President Obama talking about Gitmo, right? Guantanamo Bay, which by the way, we are keeping open. And we're going to load it up with some bad dudes, believe me. We're going to load it up.
That was President-elect Trump out on the campaign trail promising to keep open the U.S. military prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. But according to reports, President Obama is rushing to transfer detainees from the prison before he leaves office on January 20th. And according to the latest report from the Director of National Intelligence, an alarming 30% of transferred Gitmo detainees are confirmed or suspected of re-engaging in terrorist activities. Here now with reaction is the author of Defeating Jihad, The Winnable War, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Dr. Gorka, this is very serious. It can have tremendous consequences if these individuals are allowed to re-engage in terrorist activities.
Absolutely, Kimberly. Let's be very clear here. These aren't bank robbers. And just because the facility is called the Joint Detention Facility, it's not a prison. It is, in fact, an intelligence facility. These are individuals who are picked up in war zones, people who cannot be prosecuted and should not be prosecuted in a court of law, but who have very, very high intelligence value, or who simply should be kept away from other people because they are a threat to national security. The figure you quote is an official figure. If you listen to the amazing individuals like Tom Jocelyn and Bill Roggio at the Long War Journal, the recidivism rate is actually upwards of 40%. These are people who, as soon as we release them, go back to the lifestyle of jihadism. As a result, I am very, very glad to hear what President-elect Trump just said, that we are keeping that facility and we are going to fill it with bad people.
All right, well, so that seems to be the suggestion from intelligence individuals that know the difference about smart national security, keeping America safe. And these are individuals that have information that we need to get, and we don't want them to go back out. As you said, it's an alarming recidivism rate that they engage in. They just want to be let out to go and re-offend. Now, given the fact that President Obama is aware of these numbers that we even think might be lower than actuality here, why would he do this? Is it just to honor the legacy and please his constituents because it was one of his campaign promises?
I cannot explain it. It is simply spite. It is ideology. It is, as my friend Chris Plant, the radio host, says, on the left, reality is optional. And this is exactly the same case. These are bad people. They are guilty of crimes. They shouldn't be prosecuted in a regular court of law because they are picked up on a battlefield. They are not prisoners of war because they are in breach of the Geneva and Hague Conventions. As a result, by international law, not by some crazy Bush-era judgment, by international law, we can keep them in custody for as long as we are fighting jihadis. That's the law. Why we want to release them? The Lord only knows, Kimberly, why Obama wishes to release them. I think he is desperate once again to fulfill the promises. Remember, do you remember that photo opportunity where he was signing the decree to close Gitmo the day after the inauguration? What does it look like if 8 years later he can't do it? So he's embarrassed. Maybe it's just as simple as that.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. So it's his own ego and him worried about being embarrassed and putting that ahead of American national security. And what troubles me is who's making these decisions about who should be released and who should be transferred and where they are ultimately put.
Probably people like Ben Rhodes, an individual whose qualifications are a master's degree in fictional writing. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. If you read this in a Tom Clancy novel, you'd say he's lost it. This is just completely unbelievable. But this is what's happening. It is the incredibly dangerous cocktail of arrogance mixed with ignorance. That is the explanation for the last 8 years of disastrous Obama foreign and national security policy.
Yeah, and you heard Ben Rhodes making comments about this in addition to making the comments about Israel and the UN Council. And it's unbelievable because somebody who's like basically writing Harry Potter type of stuff is deciding U.S. national security. That ought to alarm everyone.
Remember, Kimberly, it's not about the truth. It's not about national security. It's about the narrative. It's about spin. The White House, for the last 8 years, has prioritized spin and false narrative over the truth. It's time America gets back to protecting Americans and to the principles of the founding.
You're absolutely right. And Dr. Gorka, I think about the many terrorists that were released, dangerous terrorists, like you said. These aren't the, run-of-the-mill stealing bubble gum from the Walgreens. These are people who want to commit acts of jihad internationally and bring the downfall of the United States, Western civilization, and anyone else that they can get. And it's unfortunate to me when I think about it, as we sit here and talk tonight, that they're out there, so many of them that this administration has released, planning and plotting and recruiting on our U.S. dime.
Just think about the fact of the matter. You're so true. You're so right. In the last 2.5 years, since Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi declared the caliphate from the Grand Mosque at Mosul, a city that we used to own, our Marines, our privates bled to actually hold and capture that city. Since he declared the caliphate, we have killed or arrested 125 ISIS terrorists in the United States alone. Not 25, not 35, 125. The threat is real. The threat is here. From Christmas parties in San Bernardino to marathons in Boston to Marine Corps fun runs in New Jersey. This is the reality of what a leaderless world creates. It is time for America to find its place again, and I truly expect, having met Mr. Trump, having worked with General Flynn, that all of this is going to change on the afternoon of January the 20th, 2017.
All right, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, the author of Defeating Jihad. Thank you so much.
Thank you.